Sarah Mitchell returned on a Tuesday afternoon after 6 months away. The air in the driveway was thick with the memory of something she couldn't yet name. She pulled in slowly, her gaze already locked on the garage door. Her fingers were still curled tight around the steering wheel. She didn't bother with her suitcase. She walked straight for the garage, heels clicking on the pavement. Her hand closed around the cold handle, and she paused. Something felt wrong, even before the door began to rise. The metal door rolled up, and daylight flooded the bay. Empty. Completely empty. Sarah's breath caught. Her mind couldn't process what her eyes were seeing. The space was too clean, too bare.
Where is it? Where is my car?
She took a step inside, her feet echoing on the concrete. The oil stain was still there, but nothing else. She turned back toward the house, her face pale, her jaw set. The silence around her was deafening. The house looked the same, but it wasn't. The whole world had shifted in those 5 empty seconds. She found her father in the living room, slumped in his recliner, half watching television. He hadn't even looked up when the front door opened.
The garage is empty. Where is the Mustang?
Mustang? Oh, that old thing. Sold it last month to Jonathan Kessler. Got $9,000 for it. More than it was worth, really.
9,000? That car was appraised at 87,000. It was mine. Uncle Anthony left it to me.
You were away. The car was just taking up space. Jonathan needed a project, and I needed the garage back. No harm done.
No harm? That car was all I had left of him. You sold it for pocket change without asking me.
Look, what's done is done. It's just metal and rubber. You're being dramatic.
Sarah's hands tightened into fists. She had never felt so robbed in her own home.
He thinks he can just decide what matters. He doesn't get to choose for me.
She didn't say another word. She turned and walked out of the living room, the weight of his dismissal hanging in the air like smoke. Upstairs, Sarah pulled down the attic ladder and climbed into the dust-smelling dimness. She remembered her uncle's old box, shoved in a corner years ago. She knelt beside a cardboard box labeled Anthony in faded marker. The tape peeled away easily, as if it had been waiting. Inside lay a manila envelope with a legal seal. She unfolded the document and saw her name, Sarah Mitchell, next to the words 1968 Ford Mustang Fastback.
He left it to me, not to Dad, to me.
Beneath the will, she found the probate records, a title transfer stamped when she turned 18, listing her as the sole owner.
He had no right at all.
Her fingers traced the state seal on the title. The paper felt heavier than it should, proof that her father's act wasn't just cruel, it was illegal.
Anthony made sure I'd have something real, and Dad sold it like it was his to give away.
She sat in the attic dust for a long moment, the box at her feet, the documents pressed to her chest.
Now I know the truth, and I'm not letting this go.
Sarah went back downstairs, documents in her hand. David was in the kitchen, pouring coffee. She laid the papers on the counter.
This is Uncle Anthony's will, and the title transfer from probate. The Mustang was mine, legally mine, since I was 18.
That's old paper. It doesn't change anything.
It changes everything. You sold a car you didn't own.
I told you, it was taking up space. I did what I thought was best.
Sarah didn't argue further. She drove to the county records office that afternoon. If there was a sale, there would be a bill of sale. At the public terminal, she pulled the vehicle history. A bill of sale had been filed with the DMV last month. She printed it out. On the seller line was her own name, Sarah Mitchell, but the signature wasn't hers.
I didn't sign this. That's not my hand.
Sarah stared at the uneven loops. Her father's handwriting flashed in her mind, the same slant, the same heavy pressure on the downstroke. Sarah barely slept. By morning, she had researched every civil attorney within 50 miles. One name kept surfacing, Patrick Cross, a specialist in property fraud.
Miss Mitchell, I understand you have a property dispute involving a classic car. Tell me what happened.
It's more than a dispute. My father sold a Mustang my uncle willed to me. I have the title. It was in my name, but the bill of sale has my signature forged on it.
Forged. If you didn't sign this, and the title was legitimately yours, then this is title fraud. A criminal offense, not just a civil wrong.
I am certain my father signed my name. He sold the car to a friend for pocket money. I want it back, and I want him held accountable.
We have strong grounds. I'll draft a demand letter requiring the return of the vehicle within 7 days, or criminal charges will follow.
And if they ignore it?
Then we escalate. I'll file a civil complaint for conversion and fraud, and we push for law enforcement involvement on the forgery.
Sarah left the office with a thin folder of legal information and a feeling she hadn't had in days, the weight of uncertainty beginning to lift. Outside, the spring air felt sharp and clean. She had a lawyer now. The pieces were in motion. Inside Cross and Associates, Patrick Cross sat at his desk, the forged bill of sale and title documents spread before him. He typed the demand: return the 1968 Ford Mustang Fastback, VIN matched within 7 days, or face title fraud charges. The letters went out that afternoon. Certified mail with signature required, one to David Mitchell and one to Jonathan Kessler. 2 days later, Jonathan Kessler stood on his porch, holding a certified envelope with the law firm's return address. Jonathan's face went pale as he read the word forgery. He knew he hadn't dealt with Sarah directly. David Mitchell saw the return address and ripped open the letter in his kitchen, coffee sloshing.
She actually got a lawyer? Unbelievable. She's blowing this completely out of proportion.
Both men had now been put on notice. The countdown had begun. The demand laid out the evidence clearly: the will, the title, and the forged signature. In 7 days, the threat of criminal charges would become very real. 1 week passed, the deadline looming. Jonathan Kessler had barely slept. The demand letter sat on his kitchen table, the word forgery burning a hole in his mind.
I need to know the truth. Did you actually sign that bill of sale?
I didn't sign anything. I never signed anything. It's a forgery.
Then your father, he signed your name. I bought a car with a forged title. This is bad.
Jonathan's hands shook so hard, he nearly dropped the phone. He had been used.
I didn't know. I swear, I thought you'd sold it. David told me you needed the money.
David lied. The car was mine, free and clear. You need to return it, Jonathan, today.
I'll get it back to you. Please, I don't want any trouble. This is David's mess.
The call ended. Jonathan stood motionless, the silence roaring in his ears. He had been a pawn in his friend's scheme. Sarah set her phone down. David had not called, not once. The silence from the other room was its own confession. The weeks turned quietly. David didn't call, didn't write, didn't so much as look at Sarah when she passed through the kitchen. Patrick Cross drove to the document examination lab early that morning. Leonard Voss had called with a result.
The slant, the pressure, the way the T crosses, identical to the Christmas card you provided. There is no question.
So the signature on the bill of sale is a definitive match to David Mitchell's handwriting.
The official report bore a red match stamp. Side-by-side enlargements showed the same heavy downstroke, the same looped S. Patrick pinned the comparison chart to his office wall, red string bridging the forged signature to David's Christmas card.
He forged his own daughter's name, and now I have the proof to bury him.
He drafted no further letters. The time for paper was over. He would deliver the evidence face to face. Outside his office window, the morning sun burned off the fog. Today would end with a knock on David Mitchell's door. The forensic report sat in his briefcase, heavier than any gavel. The next move would change everything. Patrick Cross drove the quiet suburban streets to the Mitchell home, his briefcase on the passenger seat, the forensic report inside a cold, hard fact. He stepped out, straightened his jacket, and knocked 3 times on the wooden door, hard, deliberate.
You are the lawyer. I don't have anything to say to you.
Then you can listen. I have a handwriting analysis that says you signed your daughter's name on that bill of sale.
That's nonsense. Anyone can copy a signature. You are trying to scare me.
The same T, cross, the same loop on the capital S. This Christmas card is yours, isn't it? A forensic examiner confirmed it. You forged a legal document. That's a felony.
I did what I had to do. The car was just sitting there.
The car wasn't yours. Return it immediately, or Sarah will file criminal charges. This is your only warning.
Patrick turned and walked out. David stood frozen in the doorway, the threat hanging in the air like an unspent thunderclap. Within hours, David called Jonathan, his voice cracking. The lawyer had been at his house. The forensic report was real.
They have proof, David. I am returning the car today. I am not going to prison for something you signed.
The next morning, a flatbed tow truck rumbled into the Mitchell driveway. On its back sat the 1968 Mustang Fastback, cherry red and gleaming. Jonathan stood beside the truck, pale and silent, as the car was lowered to the concrete. His hands were shoved deep into his pockets. Sarah heard the engine and walked out. She stopped at the garage door, her breath catching in her throat.
He actually did it. It's back. Uncle Anthony's car is right here.
She walked to the Mustang and laid her palm flat on the hood. The metal was cool, solid, real. Her eyes welled but didn't spill.
I am sorry. I didn't know it was yours. He lied to me too.
Sarah took the keys without a word. From the living room window, David watched, his jaw tight, his eyes hard and unreadable. The car was back, but the silence inside the house was heavier than ever. Nothing between them had been resolved. Later that afternoon, Sarah stood beside the Mustang in the garage, her phone pressed to her ear.
Patrick, the car is back. Jonathan returned it this morning, but my father hasn't said a word.
That's good, Sarah. But the forgery is a separate crime. You still have grounds to file charges.
He's my father. If I file, he could face jail time. I don't know if I can do that.
I understand the weight of that. But he committed a felony. The evidence is indisputable.
What would the charges actually mean for him? How long could he go away?
Title fraud carries up to 5 years. But with no prior record, it could be probation. Still, it's a felony.
He forged my name to sell my car for pocket change. He didn't even flinch. Why should I let him walk?
Take a day, but the clock is ticking. You need to decide what kind of justice you want.
Sarah ended the call and stared at the Mustang. The keys felt heavy in her hand. The choice sat like stone in her chest. Sleep didn't come. By morning, Sarah needed to see the evidence with her own eyes. She drove to Leonard Voss's lab without calling ahead.
You asked to see it yourself. This is the Christmas card your father sent 3 years ago. Compare it to the bill of sale.
Under the magnifier, the loops of the capital S sprang into view. Identical. The cross of the T, the pressure on the downstroke, all his.
I watched him write those cards every year. He sat there humming, and all the while he knew he'd stolen from me.
There's no question, Sarah. The pen pressure, the slant, every characteristic points to one hand, your father's.
He didn't even try to disguise it. He thought I'd never look, never fight back.
The red match stamp on the final report seemed to pulse. Every doubt she had clung to was gone.
Thank you, Leonard. I've seen what I needed. This ends now.
Sarah walked to her car, the autumn air sharp. She dialed Patrick before she started the engine.
Patrick, I am filing the charges. Whatever happens next, I am ready.
Sarah pushed through the glass doors of the county police station, the forensic report clutched in her hand.
I need to file a criminal complaint. Title fraud. My father forged my signature on a vehicle title.
She slid the bill of sale, the will, and the examiner's report across the intake counter.
This report confirms it. The handwriting is his. I want charges filed.
The duty officer studied the documents, his jaw tightening. He asked a few clipped questions, then reached for a warrant form. A warrant for David Mitchell's arrest was drafted on the spot, the ink still damp on the signature line. Sarah signed a formal statement, her handwriting steady. The officer stamped the complaint and handed her a copy.
It's real now. The warrant is active. He'll find out soon enough.
She walked out of the precinct. The afternoon light harsh. The warrant would be served by evening. For the first time in weeks, the weight on her chest lifted just a fraction. The system was moving. As dusk settled, a patrol car pulled into the driveway, its lights swirling silent and blue. Officers knocked. David opened the door, coffee mug still in hand, his expression shifting to confusion. The lead officer recited the charges. "David Mitchell, you are under arrest for title fraud." The voice was flat, official.
This is insane. I didn't do anything. You can't just...
Cold steel snapped around his wrists. Across the street, a neighbor's sprinkler stopped mid-arc. David stumbled as they guided him down the walkway, his protests dissolving into silence. From under a tree, Sarah watched, her hands deep in her jacket pockets.
He'll never forgive me. Maybe I don't need him to.
The patrol car doors slammed shut. Blue and red light washed over the quiet yards. The car pulled away. The street fell silent, but the image of her father's stunned face lingered. The first night in the county holding cell was the longest of David's life. He sat on the steel bench, head in his hands, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead.
She actually did it. My own daughter put me here.
By day 2, the cafeteria noise grated on him. He picked at a tray of instant potatoes, remembering Anthony's laugh at a cookout years ago.
Anthony always spoiled her. I was just clearing space.
That same afternoon, Sarah pulled into the jail parking lot. She didn't shut off the engine, just sat with her hands on the wheel.
I just need to know he's in there. I don't need to see him.
She stayed for 10 minutes watching the entrance, then drove away without stepping out. Inside, David lay on his bunk, staring at the water-stained ceiling. His pride was still there, but it had begun to crack.
What was I supposed to do? Just let it rot in the garage?
3 nights passed. The arraignment was set for the morning. David hadn't slept, but he hadn't broken either. In the cold courtroom, David shuffled in, chains clinking. His public defender spoke of no prior record, asking for release on bond. The judge set a $10,000 bond and issued a clear order. Submit to financial restitution mediation with Sarah Mitchell.
Mediation? She's not done with me yet.
Sarah sat in the gallery, her clasped hands pale. She didn't smile when the gavel fell.
He'll have to face me now. No more pretending it didn't happen.
By afternoon, a bondsman had been called. The money was posted from savings David had never intended to touch. He walked out into the sunlight, unshaven, in civilian clothes that hung loose after 3 days in gray. He searched the parking lot, his eyes scanning for any sign of Sarah. Her car was gone.
She didn't even wait. She's already moved on.
The mediation was set for Tuesday. Until then, they were under the same roof, but strangers. Tuesday arrived. In a sterile county mediation room, Sarah sat across from her father for the first time in a week.
She looks different, harder, like she's made of something that doesn't bend.
Patrick Cross laid the forensic report on the table with deliberate precision, the red match stamp facing David like an accusation. The mediator leaned forward. "Mr. Mitchell, did you sign your daughter's name on this bill of sale?"
I signed it. Yes. I didn't think she'd care about that old car.
He actually said it. No apology, just an excuse.
I needed the garage space. It was taking up room.
The car was mine. It wasn't taking up space. It was waiting for me.
The mediator made a note, her pen scratching. The admission was now on record. With guilt no longer at issue, the discussion turned to damages. The real negotiation was about to begin. The mediator slid a draft agreement across the table. It started with a number, $12,000 in damages for the vehicle's lost value.
12 grand. That's not pocket change. You think I can just pull that out of the air?
You sold her car for $9,000. The appraised value is $87,000. $12,000 is generous.
The mediator added a condition. David must sign away his claim to Anthony's secondary memorabilia trust, effective immediately.
The trust, that box of old magazines and model cars, take it.
Those old magazines taught me about engines when I was 15. They mattered to me, to him.
David's jaw tightened, but he took the pen. His signature bled into the paper, Heavy and final, a cashier's check for $12,000 slid toward Sarah. She folded it neatly into the folder with the trust documents. The mediator filed the agreement. The Mustang was officially hers, the debt recorded, the trust transferred.
He gave up more than money today. He gave up the lie that I didn't deserve what was mine.
A few days after the mediation, Sarah carried the wooden trunk up from the basement. Her name was pinned to the lid in Anthony's hand. Inside lay scale model cars, stacks of vintage magazines, and a leather journal tied with a simple cord.
His handwriting, I'd recognize it anywhere.
The journal read, "Someday, my Mustang will belong to Sarah. She'll understand what it means." And beneath it, "She's the only one who ever looked at that car the way I did."
He trusted me with his whole history. I won't let it all just sit in a box.
She spent the afternoon sorting, her chest tight but warm.
This belongs somewhere people can see it. Somewhere he'd be proud.
The decision came without struggle. She reached for her laptop to find the nearest vintage car museum. The National Vintage Car Museum had an exhibit on legacy vehicles. She'd call them in the morning. The next morning, Sarah dialed the National Vintage Car Museum. Her voice was steady as she introduced herself.
I have a 1968 Mustang Fastback and a collection of memorabilia from its original owner. I'd like to donate them permanently.
The museum director was on the line within minutes. He recognized the car's VIN from a registry. They had been hoping for a piece like this. They offered a permanent display bay and a glass case for the memorabilia. A plaque would bear Anthony's name. She scheduled the transport for that Friday, the Mustang polished to a mirror shine under its dust cover.
The plaque should read, "In honor of Anthony Mitchell, who knew what it meant to love a machine."
The museum agreed. The paperwork would be ready the day of the ceremony.
Just a few more days. Then the whole world can see what he built.
The date was set. The Mustang would move under its own power one last time, from her garage to a place of honor.
Uncle Anthony, this is the last drive, and it's for you.
The museum's glass doors opened to a quiet crowd of curators and a few invited guests. Sarah walked to the Mustang, its red paint glowing under the soft spotlight. She unfolded the journal, her fingers tracing the page.
Someday, my Mustang will belong to Sarah. She'll understand what it means. He wrote that 20 years ago. Today, his car will be seen by thousands. I think he'd be proud.
The museum director stepped forward and presented her with a plaque bearing Anthony's name. A glass case beside the car held the memorabilia. The journal opened to that same entry. Sarah stepped back, her hand pressed to the glass, her reflection mixing with the Mustang's polished door. She turned to the small crowd, eyes glistening but smile steady, the knowing smile now earned. The ceremony ended with quiet applause. The Mustang was home. The guests filtered out, the spotlights dimmed. One curator walked the floor, then left Sarah alone with the car. She touched the display glass one more time, the journal's words still warm in her chest. In the polished door, she saw her own reflection, older, steadier, whole.
I did right by you, Uncle Anthony. I did right by myself.
She turned from the Mustang, her footsteps soft on the museum floor. The evening light poured through the glass doors, warm and golden. Outside, the air smelled of cut grass and distant rain. She didn't look back.
It wasn't just metal and rubber. It was proof that what matters can't be stolen forever.
The faint smile she had worn all day was still there, now layered with something deeper. Peace. She walked toward the parking lot, the last light catching her hair. The Mustang watched from behind glass, finally home.